Hello and welcome to the Goon Talk. Back in with you guys for another show. Manchester City have been banned from Champions League football for 2 seasons, and obviously you can tell from my get-up that I am about to go out this evening. But it's not really something that I could let lie because it's quite big news, which impacts Arsenal quite heavily if what we think will happen will happen. So good evening. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying your Valentine's Day and. I want to get some of your reactions in the chat as well as to what you guys think about this. Of course, we have uploaded a video already today. If you want to go check that out, we did a tactical breakdown on Eduard from Celtic and being linked to a possible move to be Aubameyang's replacement. So you can go and check that out on the channel. But we're here now to chat about, and very briefly chat about, as I say, because I do have to rush out, Manchester City being banned. There is a multitude of different things that we can talk about with this. I want to get loads of your comments in the chat box as well on the screen too. But let's start with the fact that this probably means, as Padrig says there, that fifth place will get Champions League. Now, that's the big question. We don't know yet. I don't know if that means this season because Escu says there that I think that they will appeal the decision and get the suspension reduced to 1 season. And possibly, if they go through an appeal process, it could mean that the actual ban doesn't start till not next season, but the following season. If the appeal is successful and then the Court of Arbitration of Sport deems that it's unfair. But there has been so many different articles. Der Spiegel in Germany reported a while back about the issues surrounding Manchester City and their financial side of things, what that would then mean for them, as in they should be getting banned from this competition, and that has now happened. So clearly they are breaking the rules. We've seen reports that possibly Sheikh Mansour has been completely behind the funding of their sponsorship as a way to sort of cover his investment into the club. We talked about how owners like Stan Kroenke can't just pump money into a football club. But that's what Sheikh Mansour has effectively been doing with his own sponsorship deal, with his own club as a sort of a loophole. And UEFA has turned around and said that, including a lot of other offences, is simply not okay. And the next 2 Champions Leagues, because Chris says, they're banned from this season. Now, the way that I've understood it is that they'll be banned for the following 2 seasons, not this season. So I'm not quite sure what that would mean. Military Guna says that with fifth place, he's going to get Champions League for sure. Read the FFP rules and you will see it. So if that is true, it seems to pretty much say that fifth place will be getting the Champions League slot. And that means lots of different things, because it now means that Arsenal's season is nowhere near as over as we thought it was. The gap between us and fifth is very different between the gap between us and fourth. In fact, I'll get up the Premier League table so we can see it on the screen. But in terms of, it just puts a lot more emphasis on the league this season. We can no longer say that the season is done. Let me just throw this up on the screen so you guys can see it. Share screen and Chrome tab, and that's the one. So you can see the screen. You can see the screen. You can see the table. Arsenal currently sitting in 10th, 31 points. Chelsea sitting in 4th on 41 points. That was a 10-point gap. Sheffield United on 39 points, but we have a game in hand over them. The argument is that Spurs could win their game, which would take them up to 40 points. If we were to beat Newcastle at the weekend, we go up to 34 points, putting us 6 points, possibly 5 points off of 5th spot. And if that is the case, you have to say that Champions League qualification is back on for Arsenal. We've got a relatively decent run of fixtures coming up as well. And if Arsenal can put together if we could put together a run of form, it really could transform our sort of hope of getting to that point of qualifying for the Champions League and for Europe. It would massively change our chances of pulling in some top players in the summer. There's been reports coming out recently that Arsenal are in a difficult stage financially, that they have to be a little bit savvy and tricky with how they do their transfers this summer. If we were to qualify for the Champions League, that would guarantee an amount of money extra that we wouldn't have had prior, and could have a huge impact on what Arsenal do this summer to boost their squad. And obviously there's a lot of change around. It could impact on the players that originally wanted to leave, the likes of Lacazette, the likes of Aubameyang, players that didn't want to stay here the likes of possibly even a lower level, Bukayo Saka, who's going into the last 18 months of his contract. That's an important thing to factor in. And Champions League football at a club like Arsenal is necessary to keep hold of not just your top players, but the really exciting youngsters that are coming through as well. So getting Champions League is huge. This affects the whole of the top half of the table. The likes of Sheffield United, who have had a fantastic season this year and are sitting in 5th currently in the table, are looking at this now and thinking, well, if we thought we could get into Europe in terms of the Europa League and sit 5th, they'll be looking at that now and fighting tooth and nail. The likes of Everton and Man United and Wolves all receiving massive boosts as well. And don't forget that the likes of Burnley, Newcastle and Southampton, we're talking about ourselves, that those 3 clubs are on the same points as us currently. So we can't take anything for granted whatsoever. This is not a video basically saying that Arsenal are guaranteed to get Champions League football. It's not, by far. We have got so much work to do. I'm not going to be hyperbolic about that. We need to be in a position where we position ourselves to attack this and gives ourselves the best opportunity that's feasibly possible. We've played some very hard teams. We're not going to have to play Chelsea again. We're still going to have to play Spurs. We're still going to have to play Manchester City. I'm actually really going to be interested to see how Manchester City react to this in terms of their performances. Because if you're a player, you know the league has gone. That is dead. Manchester City are going nowhere near Liverpool this season for the title. The only other thing that you've got to look forward to is to try and maintain a qualification run, or try and maintain a situation where you still get to that point of qualifying for Europe. And how can you do that if you know that you are banned from the competition next season? What sort of mindset as a player you're thinking, right, we've got to put all this effort in to try and qualify for Europe next season? It doesn't work that way. It's not going to work, because players mentally just aren't going to be in the frame of mind to win football matches in that way. So seeing their results go down is not something that I would be surprised at whatsoever. And then next season, you've got the case with the manager. Pep Guardiola was already being linked with moves away from Manchester City this summer. And with this news, it seems almost 100% likely. Why would he want to stay at a club that's going to be out of Champions League football? What top managers would want to go into Manchester City under a Champions League ban? Unlikely to attract the same amount of talent that they would have done before. And obviously with these high restrictions will restrict the amount of spending that they can do. It's a huge blow for Manchester City. It's the biggest possible thing that could have happened to them, considering they've won the league title and the next big thing on their list was winning the Champions League. And I can't see them doing it this season. Yes, they've got a favourable tie, I believe, against Atalanta in the round of 16, but Atalanta are no mugs and they're doing very well in Serie A this year. So it's really weird to sort of see what happens. Let's get a lot more of your reaction in the chat box now and see what you guys are saying. Omar says that Pep will surely leave Manchester City now for sure. No European football, says Krish. Can they play Europa was the question, and no, they can't. They're banned from all competitions. But you can see not the favoritism, but the overruling shadow that the Champions League has over Europa League football, because it wasn't the headlines were not saying that Man City are banned from Europe. They're banned from the Champions League. They left out completely the Europa League. And they should have been saying that they're banned from Europe completely, because that is what the case is. And that is massively damaging in terms of income for them too. David Jones says, hopefully PSG next, they are even worse. Yeah, this opens a massive door for loads of clubs. And you can't sit there and say that Arsenal have not been guilty of possibly doing... I have not, if I'm being 100% honest, I am not 100% secure that Arsenal have gone about finances the way that they could have done. And it's very, very easy to turn around and laugh at that, because think that Arsenal don't spend money. Arsenal don't spend anything. But the thing is, we have to be really concerned about the income we're making. FFP is based upon the fact that you need to be not making a consistent loss across a certain amount of seasons. And there's other things that come into it about the legalities of how you make your money and spend your money. But Arsenal haven't been making a lot of money. That's the fact. That is the bottom line. And yet we've still been spending a fair amount of money. So there is a part of me inside that is slightly concerned about where this leaves Arsenal, but I'm hoping that we escape that. There are other clubs. Adair says Chelsea, for instance, could be somewhere that's being investigated. DFan V says Arsenal is nowhere near PSG. And I get that, and I agree with you. We are nowhere near them. My point is that this opens the door for more stringent investigations for clubs like Manchester City that looked untouchable getting banned from these competitions. And it's it's very difficult to try and not think that Arsenal could be affected in some way by this, if not everything has been done by the books. You'd hope it has. You hope that Arsenal have a strong record in that. But just my feeling is that we haven't been making a lot of money at the club, but we have been spending a lot of money, and maybe that could be damaging to us. Shashank says, can you explain from the start? Well, okay, for those that have joined late, in a brief summary, Manchester City banned from Champions League football for the next 2 seasons, not this season. They won't play in the Europa League, and it probably means that 5th spot will be open from it'll be open now, won't it? And for the club that finishes there at the end of the season to receive Champions League qualification, with possibly 8th spot now opening up. Is it 8th spot? 7th spot definitely opening up for Europa League football. So it's going to be a really odd one. If one of Manchester United or Arsenal win the Europa League as well, that could impact qualification for Europa and Champions League too. So it's going to be a real mess trying to sort all of this stuff out. Taib says, Tom, do you think that Liverpool can take their current form into next season? 100%. There's no reason why they can't. Has said it's great news for United. It 100% is great news for United. If you're a Manchester United fan, you'd be absolutely buzzing with this. Ramsey's Real Madrid played smart with their money, unlike City. Real Madrid have been brilliant with their money. You think about the sales they've made with players like Cristiano Ronaldo and selling some of their younger players abroad as well. They've done so well with the money that they've made and the money that they've invested in younger talent. That's really key to their growth and how they have avoided this. Omar reckons that Sheffield United will finish 5th. Chris reckons that 8th spot will be for the group stages. That's also going to be interesting to see how 8th spot is affected by this. Hamza says Liverpool gets automatic qualification. Yeah, of course they do. People who are finishing in the top, basically, there's no qualification for the Premier League anymore. That's done. Do you remember the days when we used to have to qualify against Besiktas and Udinese? We don't have to do that anymore. The top 4 teams of the Premier League automatically qualify. There's no qualification process anymore. So I imagine the team that finished 5th, if Manchester City finish in the top 4, will not have to qualify either, would be what I think will happen. Wild says, do you think City will appeal against or can appeal against this to get a reduced time? 100%. You look at the Chelsea transfer ban. If they can appeal against that, Manchester City could definitely appeal against this for sure. Dr. Wolfgang says the Madrid game is void. Oh, of course, they're not playing against Atalanta. They're playing against Real Madrid. Is it void? Have they banned from this season? I'm not sure if they're banned from this season. I think they're banned from the next 2 competitions. But please tell me in the chat box if you don't, or if you're watching on playback, let me know in the comments. I think that they will continue in the Champions League as they are now, and they will continue to play. They'll continue to play this season, but they'll be banned from the next 2. So that's going to be interesting. Hamza says, why did the ban happen in the first place? Because they just broke an FFP. That's why the bans happened. They've broken the rules behind FFP. It's as simple as that. Kesh says, I don't see how this is any benefit to the league. Surely being in the Prem will strengthen them in the league next season. I mean, no. If you've got, the thing is, when you look at this, and I'm going to stay on for a couple more minutes, but you look at what this means for Manchester City. Players want to play in the Champions League. It's as simple as that. And without that for 2 seasons, that hamstrings them massively. It massively restricts what they can do, the players that they can bring in. FFP being there now and the spending that they can do will be massively reduced. This will have a huge impact on Manchester City, not just being in the competition, but their transfer policy, the coach that they have, what that will do to their form and their morale and their league position. It's going to be so interesting to see what happens to Manchester City. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in terms of Arsenal's progression and how this might affect their mentality and how they see Arsenal possibly getting Champions League football. It's going to be really intriguing, 100%. Let me know what you think of this in the comments section below. Also, let me know if you think that this means that they're going to be banned for the competition right from this minute, because I'm still not sure. It's a little bit hazy on the details about what that means, or will it be just from the next 2 seasons? It's been really interesting talking to you guys about this. As I said earlier, we did release a transfer tactical breakdown video on Edouard from Celtic, who looks like he could be Aubameyang's possible replacement. We got into insight from Brian McVeigh from Reed Celtic. So if you want to find out not just only about this stuff that's been going on, but loads of transfer activity ahead of the summer for players that Arsenal could be linked to and getting their statistics and getting inside info as to what they're like as players, then please make sure you check out that video. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.